This series presents to us two stories of real experiences of haunting. It presents a dramatized version of events, interspersed with interviews with those who experienced these events firsthand. This proved to be both a positive and a negative. It is positive in that we get their natural reactions on screen. Their reactions to these past events, retold even decades later, makes the stories feel real. We gain more empathy for their trauma by witnessing them struggle to revisit these painful memories. The same strategy of making the story come alive, however, turns negative by breaking the flow of narrative while we are watching the episodes. It feels like a blend of a regular show with a reality show. The effect is somewhat jarring because we keep switching from the flow of one narrative style to another. Ultimately, all the pieces come together to provide a multidimensional perspective to an otherwise linear storytelling. The cast is exceptional. The actors bear very strong resemblance to the real people narrating the stories. We also get access to their actual photographs and videos from the time these stories are placed in. This helps flesh out the narrative, and it almost feels like we are sitting with a group of our friends who are sharing their experiences with us. This style of storytelling breaks the fourth wall, even while engaging us with movie-style dramatization of events. As the people being dramatized share their stories, we get a larger context of the impact these experiences had on these people over a period of time. They all are immensely affected and altered by these experiences of haunting. Their relationship to understanding the afterlife, our own fleeting presence in this life, seems to have contributed to their personal growth as in the first story, and family trauma as in the second story. While Chris and his friends seem to have grown from these experiences and integrated the lessons it taught them into how they move through life with more maturity, April, Matt, and Shane seem to have been so negatively impacted that they can't bring themselves to live in any house that has any history of its own. Chris and his friends also see these events as a permanent part of who they are, but seem to have accepted it as something that helped them view the world a little differently. There is simply too much pain in Shane seeing a now grown man tear up thinking of his childhood experiences when he felt abandoned by his family, when they didn't believe him initially. It feels uncomfortable as an audience, as though you're witnessing something that you should not be seeing. It is difficult to tear away his image of him as a child every time he speaks, because he talks with vulnerability of a small boy reliving his horror, not as an adult who has moved past his pain. Stylistically, it reflects the time period these stories are set in, 1980s and the early 2000s, with accurate costumes and settings. Cinematography is good enough to help you immerse yourself in the stories. Episode 3 of Eerie Hall ends with a brilliant shot of Geneseo and the forest Thomas Boyd was found in, blending into a connected landscape, which now Chris feels is inseparable from who he is. The second story intersperses the presentation with the frame moving between actual actors and settings to various rooms in a dollhouse. The transitions between the two are smooth and give us an interesting way to cut away from one part of the story to the next. It was emotional intelligence on the part of the director to include the dollhouse because that's how April sees her dream life in that house initially, as her childhood dream of living in a dollhouse coming to life when her family gets the opportunity to own this beautiful house. The image of the dollhouse underlines the poignancy of the ordeal that they underwent instead of the fairy tale they had imagined naively. Watching this series starts off as yet another adventure you want to take with James Wan because of his excellent filmmaking credentials. However, by the time we are done watching all 5 episodes, all we are left with are stories of these people who grow on us with their intimate portrayal of their true hauntings. I give this series a 4 out of 5. Totally worth your watch if you're not just looking for cheap thrills, but for human stories touched by the supernatural.